Okay, it's 8 o'clock here on the East Coast on Tuesday evening. Just wanted to say hello. Hope you all had a good Thanksgiving and a little break from studies and all those other things that we have to do each day. Hope you got time to relax a little bit, spend some time with some friends and family. So it's week 14. We don't have much reading this week, just a few two discussion forum questions based on that reading. The reading is in here, right? Chapter 15. What do you do in times of tight money? And frankly, for nonprofits, given the returns from the elections earlier in the month, the assumption is that nonprofit revenues are going to be incredibly tight because, particularly in the social service area, most nonprofits get, quote, most of their money from government contracts and government revenue streams. So there's an anticipation that those revenue streams are going to decline as the government cuts back further on social service spending. Maybe that's Chicken Little and the sky falling, but that's certainly the concern here in the Northeast, where most of the nonprofits are concentrated, and where government services are not for the most part, but are definitely a lot of them are delivered through government contracts with nonprofit organizations. So the chapter actually is very timely in that regard. And so we'll have a couple of discussion questions that ask you to think about those recommendations on how nonprofits can increase revenues and decrease expenses. And there's also the latter part of that chapter talks a lot about social enterprise, social entrepreneurship. And I think that the one thing I'll just say there is that I think the sector as a whole gets too caught up and tries to do too many things when it excludes the potential for making money that may fall outside of its mission, the nonprofit organization's direct mission. I say that because, as I may have said earlier, I do really think that nonprofits can take advantage of the for-profit revenue stream by working with companies that are willing to divert the income stream that typically goes to private owners and shareholders. If that revenue stream or profit stream is diverted to nonprofits. Yes, I am smitten with the Newman's Own business model and its potential. And I think in part, one reason why it has not gotten more serious consideration is because it does not, its production, the production of Newman's Own's products are in no way related to the mission of organizations that benefit from the profits that the company generates and flow to the foundation and then in turn are donated to nonprofits. And because of that, and because nonprofits seem to want social enterprises and the production of the product to somehow be related to mission, I think they really narrow unnecessarily the possibilities that social enterprises and capital for-profit companies like Newman's Own actually provides for them. Okay, so end of sermon. The other thing, obviously, this week is that you're working on your final, And I will say that if anybody has questions about it or concerns about it, don't be hesitant to give a call. Um, you know, this is the final, right? The St. Xavier Healing Touch Hospital case study. And there are those 6 questions that you're supposed to go through. You know, the first question is pretty straightforward. It's simply asking you to do variance reports or analysis. So you look at the projected budgets, revenue and expenditure, and you look at the budgets against the actuals in year 2001, 2002. So that should be pretty straightforward. Let's see. And then question 2, you had activity cost basing. Essentially, you know, there's overhead that goes with each of the programs, right? And they want you to figure out or select one of the bases on which you would allocate the overhead costs to the various programs. The X-ray, the MRI, and the CT scan. So make a choice and then do the calculations. Let's see, question number 3 has to do with capital budgeting. This goes back to essentially trying to calculate the cost and the benefits of capital projects over time into the future. So, right, you have to account for future cost and future revenues in present value. And so there's a present value cost. You compare that with the present value revenue, and you come up with a net present value for each of the projects, and then you decide based upon which one has the best or the most positive present present value. Let me say that again. Depending on which one has the highest net present value, you select that one. That's the criteria that the question asks. Okay. Let's see. And then we get to question 4. That's just looking at the balance sheet. And it asks you to look at the notes that are presented below the balance sheet that contain liabilities or possible liabilities. And the question asks you to identify them by looking through the notes. And then question 5 has to do with the balance score sheet that we've touched upon in the course. So that's there. And then finally, question 6 asks you to develop a 2003 budget for the hospital based upon all the stuff that or that you've analyzed in the first 5 questions. So in that one, you're probably going to have to make some guesstimates, some assumptions. And so as you do that, make sure you, as it says here in the question, state your assumptions clearly. Okay? I'll be looking there not for specific numbers per se, but rather how reasonable are the numbers that you provide given the data that's in the case study, and also the assumptions that you explicitly state. Okay? All right. So I guess that's that. And I'll let it go there. It's 9 o'clock. So we'll let it be. Hope you had a nice holiday. Again, if you have any questions, you can give a call. The number is 413-237-7475. Okay? All right. Good luck and thanks.